Hello everybody, this is Kirby over yonder, and in 2016, the megalomaniacal corporation known as Disney released the film Zootopia. At the time of its release, I absolutely loved the film, and so did most of my friends. But as time goes on, I've become more and more critical of the film. Don't get me wrong, there are still things that I absolutely love about the film, but there are also things I've grown to absolutely hate about it. So I thought it'd be fun to make a video in which I discuss the things I like and don't like about Zootopia. How this video will be structured is that I will go back and forth between discussing an aspect of the film that I like and an aspect of the film that I dislike. I feel as though discussing it this way will make it clear just how mixed my opinions on the film are. So let's get into it. This is my love-hate relationship with Zootopia. I think one of the strongest aspects of Zootopia is Nick and Judy and their dynamic with each other. Judy herself makes for a very likable lead character, despite the fact that she's a cop. Don't worry, we'll get to that. But her optimism, determination, and desire to make the world a better place makes her an enjoyable character to watch. But the real star of the show here is the sexy fox man himself, Nick Wilde. His smug, sleazy personality combined with his excellent line delivery makes him such a delight to watch. He's like if Saul Goodman was a fox, I love it. So as individual characters, they're both already great, but when put together, their dynamic is fantastic. Seeing Judy's innocence contrasted against Nick's more cynical worldview makes for a really fun dynamic. And it's great to see the two warm up to each other and become genuine friends throughout the course of the movie. Sure, seeing two characters with contrasting personalities grow to become friends is very predictable. We see it in a lot of Disney movies like Toy Story or The Emperor's New Groove. But hey, it's a formula that works. And I like that the film never teases at them getting together romantically. It's rare to see a male and female duo who aren't forced into a romantic relationship. They're just two platonic friends, and that's awesome. So just know that for all the faults I have with this movie, Nick and Judy's dynamic really does hold a lot of it together. Oh boy, here we go. Before I begin with this segment, I just want to make one thing clear.
I'm white.
Yeah, as a white guy, my opinion on this film's racism allegory is obviously nowhere near as important as the opinions of people of color. Therefore, if I say anything incorrect, then please feel free to correct me, as I do not pretend to be an expert about this kind of stuff at all. That being said, the more I think about it, the more the predator versus prey racism allegory does not work for me. So you're telling me we're comparing predators to black people and prey to white people? And you didn't see anything wrong with that. The fact that, in this world, predators have a biological instinct to kill prey means that prey do have a genuine reason to fear predators. Even if it was thousands of years ago, it's still there. We even see that some predators still have violent tendencies in present day. And this really muddles the whole racism allegory, because in real life, white people don't have a genuine reason to fear black people. So by comparing black people to predators, the film is kinda saying that some black people are violent, which is just no. And just for the sake of clarity, I don't think the film was trying to say any of this. I just think it was a bad metaphor. But that's not where the problems here end, because this film is also very pro-cop, which is no thank you. Like, really let this sink in for a second. A film whose main message is racism bad not only doesn't do anything to criticize the police force, but actively praises it? Isn't that kinda baffling? I guess the closest we get is this scene here, but even still, the film has nothing to say about the way police abuse their power to hurt people of color and of lower social classes. The main takeaway of the film is that police are good and help people when, yeah, I don't know about that. The film should have ended with Judy resigning from the force and finding her own way to help people, but instead it ends with her continuing to be a police officer, and with Nick becoming one too. No! I don't know, maybe I should give this film credit for at least trying to say something about prejudice. But then again, this is Disney we're talking about. They only actually care about minorities when they can make them money. I mean, that's why they tried to copyright the Day of the Dead. Or why they casted a person who defends police brutality to play Mulan. Or why they funded the Don't Say Gay bill. Or why they canceled the Owl House. Disney is not woke, people. Quit calling them woke. The world that Zootopia takes place in is very unique and interesting. It's interesting to see how Zootopia itself accommodates for all types of animals of different sizes, as well as what type of role each animal takes. It's cool how each species has its own little town too. And because Judy and Nick's adventure takes them to so many different places, we get a good variety of settings here, with the Mice Godfather parody probably being my favorite. I honestly kinda want a sequel to Zootopia, just so we can see more of this world explored, and that's definitely a good sign. And yeah, it's a Disney movie from the 2010s, so obviously the animation is beautiful and the backgrounds are super detailed and all that fun stuff. The film is really well paced too, we never spend too much time on one particular scene. With one exception, but I'll get to that in a minute. Overall, you can really tell just how much thought was put into building the world of Zootopia, and that effort really goes a long way in making the audience immersed in the film. I actively want to know more about this world, and that's great.
Why do we have to fight right now? Like, from a storytelling perspective?
Oh great, this scene. Don't you love it in animated films when two characters have a misunderstanding? And then instead of actually talking about it like real people, they have to get all mad at each other. So then the two characters have to split up for no good reason. But it's okay because they'll reunite like 10 minutes later and make the entire thing pointless. Some films handle this trope better than others, but even at its best, it's never my favorite part of the film, you know? And trust me, Zootopia is not this trope at its best. First off, the misunderstanding itself is super contrived. Because, like, all Judy said was that the predators acting savage might have something to do with their biology. Which I get how that creates a lot of fear-mongering and prey, but there's no reason as to why Nick should be shocked by Judy saying this. Like, he was literally there when Judy overheard the scientist seal and the J.K. Simmons line talking about this. But of course, instead of actually talking about it like real people would, they get all mad at each other and then storm off. Then we get 10 minutes of Judy being sad. Yippee, my favorite part. Oh, but look, now they're back together again, yay! I'm so glad the plot stopped for 10 minutes so almost nothing interesting can happen. This is slightly off topic, but watching season 2 of The Owl House has made me realize even more just how much I hate this trope. Like, the fact that the characters just talk to each other about their issues makes the character drama feel so much more real. And through it, the characters actually learn to understand each other and grow as people. It feels so much more mature. Whereas in Zootopia, it feels melodramatic and forced. It didn't need to be here at all. Zootopia is a really funny movie, you guys. Not every joke lands, but the ones that do hit really hard. With the highlight easily being the scene at the DMV. I'm usually not a fan of jokes that last a long time, but the timing here is just so good, so priceless. But there's other great stuff here too, like the fact that this Disney film has a Breaking Bad reference is just incredible. The Disney bootleg scene is pretty amusing. For some reason, I really like these goat characters. I think they're pretty funny. And like I said before, the whole Godfather reference is just great. The action in this film is also really solid. They're all very fast-paced, and the animation is really fluid. There aren't a ton of Disney movies with these big action set pieces, so Zootopia really stands out in that regard. That whole sequence on the train especially is just awesome. So as a whole, the action and comedy both do a really great job giving the film its personality. There's some really memorable stuff here. This is just a short list of things that I like, but don't have enough to say about to warrant a whole segment, but still stuff I wanted to mention anyways. Nick's flashback scene is just perfect. It does an excellent job portraying his fear and explaining why he's so closed off from other people. And the fact that he's able to open up to Judy about this shows how much he's grown as a character. I mentioned before that the whole predator versus prey metaphor doesn't really work as an allegory for racism, but when you take that away, I actually really like the idea of predators going back to their savage ways. It's an idea that isn't really explored very much in shows and movies with civilized animals. I actually really like the way the pen recorder is used as a sort of Chekhov's gun. It's pretty obvious from the get-go that it's gonna come back, but once Nick and Judy reconcile, you think that's gonna be it. So the fact that it's used for the climax is actually pretty clever and unexpected. Granted, I have my problems with this climax, I'll get to it, but I appreciate this specific aspect of it. And lastly, J.K. Simmons plays the lion mare guy, and that's just epic. J.K. Simmons is pretty much great in everything he's in. He's literally the only, mildly decent thing about that awful new Chip and Dale movie. This is pretty much the same idea as the last segment, but for things I dislike instead of things I like. I'm sorry, but the Shakira song is kinda awful. I get what it's trying to say, you know, don't give up even if you fail. But to me, it kinda just sounds like Shakira's telling me to intentionally make mistakes and then continue to make mistakes. And I don't really see what's motivational about that. I don't know, as a song it sounds fine, and I can see why some people might be into it, but it's just not my thing. The nudist scene makes me cringe every time I watch this film. Come on, there's no way this didn't inspire artwork that I do not want to see. Is it just me, or do Judy's parents add literally nothing to this film? They literally just exist to discourage Judy and be racist. Except for that one scene where they randomly become unracist off-screen, because apparently hiring one Fox means that they aren't racist anymore. Shoutouts to that one cheetah cop for being the least funny character to ever exist ever. LeMayo, he's fat and gay, haha, funny funny. Okay, now on to the part of the video you were all expecting. So Disney had a bit of a trend in the 2010s, where most of their villains are characters that don't appear evil at the start of the film, but have hidden evil intents. Some films handled this well, like Lotso in Toy Story 3 and King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph, but some films like Hans from Frozen and That Was His Mistake from Big Hero 6, not so much. And the sheep lady from Zootopia is one of, if not the worst example of this. First off, there is no foreshadowing at all. Nothing to clue the audience in on maybe this character is a little darker than they seem. Which sure, I guess this makes this twist more surprising, but just because it's surprising doesn't mean it's clever. Most Gravity Falls fans, myself included, were able to predict Stan having a twin brother, but because it was so well foreshadowed throughout the course of the series, most of us were satisfied with this reveal anyways. At least the way I see it, a twist being satisfying is much more important than a twist being shocking. And because the reveal is so late into the story, she barely gets any time to actually be a villain. And most of the time she does get, she basically just spends exposition dumping. And because of that, she doesn't make for a very memorable character, evident by the fact that I don't even remember her name. I've literally been calling her Sheep Lady this whole time. And for all that time she does spend exposition dumping about her plan, I don't really understand what her motivation is. I get that she wants to be in power and all, but what does she actually want to do with her power? What's her end goal here? Why does she want to continue darting the predators? She's already the mayor, isn't her plan technically complete? I don't know, man, it's just a really contrived twist that feels like it's only here so the film can have a villain. It's really not as clever as the film thinks it is. So that's Zootopia, a film that I both really love and really hate. I'd say it's about a 6 out of 10 film as a whole. The good stuff does outweigh the bad stuff, but only slightly. The stuff I don't like about this film is really bad, but if you're able to look past that, there's a lot of fun to be had here. It's always fun talking about media I have mixed opinions on, because it means I get to switch back and forth between praising something and trashing on it. And hey, speaking of which, next up on my Adventure Time season retrospectives, we've got Season 6, a season that I have very conflicting thoughts on. It should be fun to talk about, I'm excited for that. But until then, I hope everyone has a great day, and Kirby, out.